Hi, night wanderers, craving a soft tale from long ago. ASMR History offers peace. Get cozy. Let us explore. What is the one thing holding you back today? Is it fear, doubt, or simply the weight of the world pressing down on your shoulders? Well, my friend, you've just stumbled into the rowdiest, smokiest, and most gloriously sticky place in all of medieval history, the tavern. And in this dimly lit den of laughter, danger, and questionable hygiene, you might just find the courage to face whatever it is that's been dragging you down. As you push open that heavy iron-hinged door, letting out a creak so long and dramatic it could be its own form of entertainment, you're hit with a blast of warm air and a rich perfume of smoke-wet wool-stale beer and mystery meat. It's like a drunken handshake, welcoming you into a world where knights, farmers, and bards can all get equally drunk and equally robbed. But hey, at least they're in it together, right? The ceiling's so low that tall men, duck and drunk men bump their heads and the floor. Well, let's just say it's not metaphorically dirt, it's literally dirt. But someone's laid down some straw in a valiant attempt to pretend it's cleaner. It isn't. And as you make your way to an open seat at a lopsided bench near the hearth, you can't help but notice the wet spot you're about to sit in. But you don't ask questions here. Not in a place where someone's arguing about a stolen chicken, another's passed out with a ladle still in hand, and a one-eyed dog gnaws on a bone under a table like he pays rent. But here's the thing. In this medieval tavern, with its soot-stained walls, flickering candlelight, and a hearth that doubles as both heating and an open flame hazard, you're not alone. You're part of a living, breathing organism, where laughter erupts in one corner, while arguments break out in another. Where a woman slams her mug down hard enough to spill half her drink and no one even flinches. And where a man stares at you with the dazed look of someone who's either thinking very deeply or forgetting how chairs work. So take a deep breath, my friend, and let that blend of ale sweat, moldy bread, and boiled onions fill your lungs. Because in this place, with its carved-up tables, creaking benches, and a floor that might just swallow your foot whole if you're not careful, you've got a choice. You can let the weight of the world keep pressing down on you. Or you can stand up, slam your own mug down, and face whatever it is that's been holding you back. Because in this rowdy, smoky, gloriously sticky tavern, you're not just another face in the crowd. You're a knight, a farmer, a bard. Hell, you're whatever you want to be. And if someone tries to rob you blind, well, at least you'll have a damn good story to tell. So go ahead, take that seat, and let the laughter, the danger, and the questionable hygiene wash over you. Because in this medieval tavern, anything's possible, even finding the courage to change your life. Are you ready to rise? What is the one thing holding you back today? Step into a world where the rules are different, where the air is thick with smoke and the floor is sticky with spilled ale. This is the medieval tavern, a place where the modern world falls away and the raw, unfiltered essence of community takes center stage. It is rough, it is loud, and it is alive with the energy of people coming together to drink, to laugh, and to forget their troubles for a while. As you take your seat on a damp, possibly cursed bench, you cannot help but feel a sense of belonging. The tavern is a sprawling, uneven spillage of tables, benches, barrels, and wooden crates that pass for seats. There is no blueprint, no cozy booths in the back, just a chaotic arrangement that somehow works. The hearth is the centerpiece, a roaring open fire that provides warmth light and a healthy dose of indoor smoke inhalation. Around it, people crowd in for comfort, like moths, with mugs hogging the warmth if they have the best seats, and relying on ale if they do not. The bar is a thick wooden plank, resting across two barrels, sagging under the weight of jugs, mugs, and elbows. Behind it stands the tavern keeper, the ruler of this unruly kingdom. Equal parts chef-server, accountant, babysitter, and executioner of barroom justice. They greet regulars with a nod, strangers with suspicion, and troublemakers with a tankard to the head. They keep mental tabs on who has paid, who owes, and who has had 3 too many, all without writing anything down. The walls are stained with candle soot, the windows covered with greasy cloth or animal hide, and every surface polished by the elbows boots and spilled drinks of generations past. And maybe a chicken? The narrow staircase leads to upstairs rooms where a boot hanging from the railing post might be decorative or a warning. The back room could be for storage illegal gambling, or where the last person who insulted the barmaid was taken, never to be seen again. Are you ready to rise to the occasion? To embrace the chaos and the camaraderie of the medieval tavern as you settle onto your bench, dodging elbows and spilled stew? Your throat is dry, your boots are damp, and it is time for the main event, the drink. Your choices may be limited, lukewarm, and possibly life-threatening. But in this moment, in this place, that is all part of the adventure. So raise your mug toast, your fellow patrons, and let the warmth of the hearth and the spirit of the tavern wash over you. This is where you belong, if only for a little while. What is the one thing holding you back today? Is it the fear of the unknown, the comfort of the familiar, or the weight of expectations? In this medieval tavern, none of that matters. Here the only thing that counts is survival and the willingness to embrace the chaos. As you step into this dimly lit world, the first thing that greets you is the drink. The classic ale, thick and cloudy with bits of grain and yeast floating in it. It is not cold, and you do not ask how long it has been sitting in the barrel. You just drink and hope. Then there is the mead, sweet and strong, sometimes delicious, sometimes tasting like regret and bee venom. It is the drink of nobles' wedding guests and that one bard who insists on being paid in gold or mead. The cider, sharp and tangy, served in cracked mugs that may double as soup bowls by morning. It is the choice of those in orchard-rich regions or those who want to forget the smell of the man beside them. The wine watered down and soured, reserved for lords and bishops. And the water a bold choice teeming with invisible death. But you have survived the drink barely. Now your stomach growls, reminding you that you have not eaten since sunrise. In this tavern, you do not order food. You ask what is left, and hope it is hot and only vaguely mysterious. The star of the table is the pottage, a thick stew made from whatever was lying around that day. It has been cooking in the same pot since Monday, and it is now Thursday. It is less of a meal and more of a culinary time capsule. The meat, if involved, is probably rabbit pigeon, or the unlucky chicken who wandered too close to the fire. The bread, tough and dark, more a weapon than a food. The cheese smelling like an old boot and developing its own personality. But in the flickering firelight with noise all around, and the warmth of food in your hands, it is not bad. It is filling, it is hot, and if you do not think too hard about what is floating in your bowl, it might even be comforting. You are not here for fine dining. You are here to eat like a survivor. And then there are the people, the real entertainment. The red-faced farmer deep into his fourth ale, the hooded stranger in the shadows, the soldier in battered armor regaling tales of battle. This tavern is the original social media feed, loud, chaotic, half-true, and fully committed to oversharing. Are you ready to rise, to embrace the unknown, the uncomfortable, and the unpredictable in this medieval tavern that is all there is? It is a world of survival, of living in the moment, of finding comfort in the chaos. So raise your mug, sniff it, and sip. It is warm, it is bitter, and somehow it is perfect. Because here, if it is wet and will not kill you immediately, it is a fine vintage. Welcome to the medieval tavern, where life is rough, but you are tougher. What is the one thing holding you back today? Step into a world where chaos reigns supreme, where the air is thick with the scent of ale and the sound of raucous laughter. Welcome to the medieval tavern, a place where dragons, Frenchmen, and talking swords are just another part of the nightly performance. The storyteller's tankard is full, and his audience is in stitches, hanging on every word of his tales, no matter how false they may be. The merchant's shouts of grain prices blend with the clinking of gold coins, a siren's call to the thieves lurking in the shadows. The dice roll across the warped table, the player's expressions intense, one cheating the other, letting it happen, the fight brewing like a storm on the horizon. The bard strums his lute, his voice cracking on the high notes of a love song that seems suspiciously improvised. But no one minds, for he is wearing pants and in tune a step above the previous night's entertainment. The women tavern staff and entrepreneurs alike weave through the crowd, their eyes sharp, their demeanor confident, ready to flirt, laugh, or knock teeth in depending on the tone of the night. Children dart between legs, swiping bread and coin, a part of the tavern's heartbeat, the rhythm of life in this wooden cavern. The man slumped under the table goes unnoticed, a footnote in the symphony of chaos. This is not just a place to eat and drink. It is a living, breathing entity, and tonight you are a part of its cast. Are you ready to rise? The true soundtrack of the tavern is not a ballad, but a cacophony of sound. Mugs clink and shatter. Laughter booms like a wild boar's call. Voices layer over one another, fighting for dominance. The bartender's shouts mingle with the barmaid's reprimands, the battle cry for another round echoing through the room. The bard's three-stringed lute plays the same four chords, his verses shifting from lost love to found chickens to noblemen with backwards pants. The room's attention hanging on his every word, ready to turn entertaining or dangerous at a moment's notice. The spills, the burps, the falls, the goat's bleat, the scraping of chairs all blend into a rhythmic heartbeat, a harmony born from disorder. And when the room falls silent for 3 seconds, it is only the calm before the heroic fart that reignites the tavern's song. As the ale flows and the stew settles, the tavern transforms once more, a medieval casino where gambling is the night's entertainment. Dice, carved from bone and wood, clatter across tables, each toss met with cheers, groans, and accusations of witchcraft. Cards, hand-painted and worn, appear their rules, shifting with each explanation. The game a mix of poker and slapping. Wagers range from coins to mugs, to livestock, to freedom the stakes as high as the spirits. This is the tavern's true face, a place where chaos reigns and life is lived to the fullest. A place where you can lose yourself in the symphony of disorder and emerge forever changed by the experience. In a dimly lit tavern where the air is thick with smoke and the scent of ale, a group of regulars huddle around a worn wooden table, their eyes gleaming with mischief as they engage in a game of chance. The newcomer, a young man with a hopeful smile, soon realizes that luck is not on his side. The regulars are slick, their hands moving swiftly as they shuffle the cards, roll the dice with a practiced slowness, and flash smiles that are just a little too wide. Cheating is part of the game, and it's half the fun. Hidden dice, marked cards, and mysterious coughs when the lucky player leans in. It's all part of the tavern's unwritten rules. If you win big, you're expected to buy a round for the house, or risk finding yourself on the receiving end of a less than friendly encounter. If you lose badly, you smile, pretend it was all part of your plan, and slowly push your chair back toward the door, hoping to make a graceful exit. But the games don't stop there. Side bets and challenges erupt throughout the tavern. Arm wrestling matches, thumb wars, and the ever-popular contest of who can drink the most without falling over. The winner is met with a roar of applause, while the loser finds themselves spending the night under the table, nursing a headache that will last until the next market day. Despite the unclear rules and absurd stakes, the energy in the tavern is addictive. In this medieval world, luck isn't just a game. It's a gamble with your purse, your pride, and possibly even your pants. As the night deepens and the tavern fills with warmth and humidity, a new kind of performance takes center stage. One made of words, music, and confident nonsense. This is storytime medieval style. In the corner, a bard clears his throat, his fingers gently plucking at a half-tuned lute, the strings squeaking like old boots. He may be missing a few teeth, but his confidence is unshakable. With a dramatic flourish, he launches into a ballad of heartbreak and heroism, spinning a tale of a knight who fell in love with a mermaid and drowned nobly while reciting poetry. No one quite believes him, but everyone listens anyway. That is the way of the tavern. Truth is optional, but entertainment is everything. Around the tables, others join in the storytelling. Not bards, but patrons emboldened by ale and the desire to be heard. One man swears he once wrestled a bear and lived to drink about it. Another claims to have witnessed a witch transforming a cow into a goat. A third insists he is related to Charlemagne on his mother's cousin's side. Each story begins with the phrase, "You will not believe this, but," and they are right. No one truly believes them, but everyone wants to. Boasts become ballads and mishaps become myths. Someone tells a joke so terrible that it circles back to being good, while another recites a poem, likely plagiarized from a monk's scroll. The room responds with claps, hoots, or thrown bread, depending on the quality and quantity of the performance. If fortune smiles upon the tavern, a scold or minstrel might be passing through. These professionals travel from town to town, exchanging their music for coins meals and occasionally a place to sleep indoors. Their songs are polished, their tales lengthy, and their ability to rile up a crowd is almost dangerous. But even they know the golden rule of tavern tales. Never let facts ruin a good story. In this smoke-filled room with the fire crackling and the mugs sloshing, storytelling is more than just entertainment. It is tradition. It is connection. It is how friendships are forged, enemies are made, and the occasional lifelong drinking partner is found. As midnight approaches, half the tavern is reenacting the story of the one-legged knight who fought off 6 highwaymen with nothing but a ladle. Laughter and cheers fill the air, and the fact that it is all made up is forgotten. Because in a medieval tavern, every liar is a legend if their story is good enough. As the night deepens and the ale continues to flow, the atmosphere in the tavern shifts, a kind of boozy boldness taking hold. The bard is halfway through his 3rd song about unfaithful shepherdesses, and suddenly everyone is feeling a little more romantic. Welcome to the world of medieval flirting, where subtlety has long since left the building. It begins with eye contact, or at least one eye slightly squinting through a mead-induced haze. A man with only 2 remaining teeth leans across a bench and slurs, "My lady, your beauty burns brighter than the hearth." She responds by hurling a crust of bread at his forehead, much to the delight of the cheering room. Others attempt a more gentle approach, offering refilled mugs, clumsy compliments, or assistance in carrying a bowl of stew to prevent spills. Spoiler alert, the stew still spills. For the women in the tavern, be they staff guests or traveling merchants fending off the advances of would-be poets, arm wrestlers, and men who attempt to impress by balancing knives on their noses, is simply part of the experience. Sometimes these efforts are successful. More often they result in black eyes and empty purses. But for those truly seeking companionship, the tavern offers more than just flirting. Courtesans work the room with practiced ease, knowing who has coin, who has charm, and who will likely pass out before making it to the stairs. While transactions are discreet, the implications are anything but. And where there are courtesans, there are jealous lovers. Nothing sparks a tavern brawl faster than a stolen glance, a wandering hand, or a husband catching his wife laughing a little too hard at the bard's joke about bishops. Tables are overturned, mugs become weapons, and a bench finds itself broken in half once again. Yet somewhere amidst all this chaos, genuine sparks of romance still manage to fly. In a cozy corner, a shy baker's daughter and a wandering stonemason share a hearty laugh over a bowl of steaming stew, their eyes sparkling with the promise of an unexpected connection. Nearby, 2 farmers, their cheeks flushed with ale, discover a shared distaste for the humble turnip, their boisterous camaraderie echoing through the tavern. Across the room, a young monk, his voice stumbling over well-intentioned compliments, accidentally charms a blushing nun, their innocent exchange a testament to the power of chance encounters. In this lively medieval tavern, love, or something delightfully close to it, finds a way to blossom amidst the chaos, reminding us that even in the most unexpected places, the heart can find its home. The once merry atmosphere shatters like a dropped tankard as a quarrel erupts. The reason lost amidst the clamor, a spilled drink, a heated accusation of cheating at dice a battle over a coveted bench, or perhaps an ill-advised jab at someone's mother. In an instant, the tavern transforms into a whirlwind of flying stools, crashing pottery, and the rallying cry of, "Hold my bread," as patrons launch themselves into the fray with all the finesse of a drunken trebuchet. The scene, more comical than menacing, unfolds like a well-rehearsed play, with wild swings missing their mark brawlers, tripping over benches, and wayward punches landing squarely in bowls of stew. Amidst the mayhem, the tavern keeper's voice booms like a general on the battlefield, one hand wielding a ladle, the other a sturdy club as patrons place wagers, cheer on the combatants, or wisely slide their drinks out of harm's way. When the dust settles, the fighters, now adorned with bloodied noses and fresh bruises, find themselves swept back into the tavern's warm embrace, their quarrels forgotten as quickly as they began, replaced by laughter, clinking mugs, and the birth of colorful new nicknames that will live on long after the aches have faded. As the night winds down and the bard's snores mingle with the crackling of the dying fire, weary patrons climb the creaking stairs to the tavern's humble lodgings, where privacy is but a distant dream and companionship takes on a whole new meaning. In cramped quarters, guests lay shoulder to shoulder on thin straw-stuffed mattresses, their slumber a symphony of snores mutterings and the occasional whiff of garlic that weaves itself into the fabric of their dreams. For those whose coin or consciousness falls short, the tavern floor becomes their resting place, a patchwork of benches, tables, and hearthside corners, where man and beast alike find solace in the lingering warmth of the fire. Despite the discomfort and the ever-present din sleep, eventually comes a testament to the strange comfort found in the presence of fellow travelers, united by the simple need for shelter, and the unspoken bonds forged over shared meals and laughter. And though the morning may bring sore necks, parched throats, and mysterious bruises for a few precious hours, these wayfarers have found a home away from home, a place where kings and commoners alike rest their heads, lulled by the tavern's never-ending lullaby of life laughter and the promise of another day's adventure. What is the one thing holding you back today? Is it the weight of yesterday's chaos still clinging to your bones? The ale-soaked memories blurring the edges of your vision? Or is it the uncertainty of what lies ahead beyond the tavern walls, in a world where survival is a daily battle? You rise from the floor, shaking off the remnants of sleep, and the stranger's boot imprint on your chest. The tavern keeper's ladle clangs against a mug, a harsh reminder that the day waits for no one. Up or out, that's your wake-up call. There's no breakfast buffet, just thicker pottage and watered-down ale. But you're alive, and that's more than some can say. As you survey the room, the tavern begins to stir, like a beast slowly waking. New faces trickle in seeking solace or escape from the trials of medieval life. Stories from the night before take on new life, embellished with each retelling. The air is thick with the scent of smoke sweat and the promise of another day. In this place, the beating heart of the community, you find more than just a drink. You find belonging, story, and a chance to forget the hardships that await beyond the tavern door. Farmers drink beside craftsmen, pilgrims share bread with thieves, and strangers become friends if only for a night. Deals are made, grudges are buried or fueled, and lives are changed over splinters and spilled cider. The tavern is a court, a confessional, and a theater stage all at once. It's a place where social classes blur, and the weight of the world seems a little lighter. So, as you step into the morning light, feeling the bite mark on your boot and the 2 coins in your pouch, remember this: the tavern is more than just a drinking hole. It's a sanctuary, a place where you can find relief from the cold, the work, and the endless seriousness of surviving medieval life. Are you ready to rise to face another day, knowing that the tavern will be here, waiting to welcome you back with open arms and a warm fire? Because in an age where everything can be taken from you without warning, the sense of being alive among the living is no small thing. So raise your mug, my friend, and embrace the chaos, the camaraderie, and the unforgettable moments that can only be found within these walls. The medieval tavern may be loud, dirty, and honest, but it's also a place where you can find the strength to face whatever the world has in store. And that in itself is worth more than all the coins in your pouch. In a time when gods reigned supreme, a woman rose from the shadows to challenge the very foundations of Egypt. Nefertiti, a name that echoes through the ages, entered the world like a bolt of lightning, illuminating the path to a new era. Her origins may be shrouded in mystery, but her impact is etched in the annals of history. As Pharaoh Akhenaten's Queen Nefertiti was no mere consort. She stood tall, a pillar of strength and power, an equal partner in a reign that would shake the very core of Egyptian society. Together, they dared to dismantle centuries of tradition, casting aside the pantheon of gods in favor of a single deity, the sun disk Aten. It was a move that bordered on heresy, a seismic shift that sent shockwaves through the land. Nefertiti was not content to watch from the sidelines. She was a force to be reckoned with, leading ceremonies, making offerings, and even depicted in art smiting enemies, a role typically reserved for male pharaohs. In a society where queens were often relegated to the background, Nefertiti was an ever-present figure, her image gracing more artwork than even Akhenaten himself. She stood tall sometimes, larger-than-life, holding power, quite literally, in her hands. But this rise to prominence was not without its challenges. Egypt was not ready for such a radical upheaval. The old priesthood with their temples and gods resented the loss of their power and influence. The capital moved to a new city, Akhetaten, known today as Amarna, severing ties with the old ways. Yet through it all, Nefertiti remained steadfast, her name sung in hymns to the sun, her figure etched into the very walls of history. And then, as suddenly as she had appeared, Nefertiti vanished from the historical record. No tomb, no body, no confirmed end. It is as if history, after showcasing her brilliance, chose to look away, leaving us with an enigma that has captivated the world for centuries. To truly understand Nefertiti's rise, one must first meet the man who changed everything, Pharaoh Akhenaten. Born Amenhotep IV, he was a prince in line with a 1,000-year legacy of gods and tradition. But something shifted within him, a divine inspiration, or perhaps a touch of madness. When he ascended to the throne, he turned his back on the mighty god Amun and declared a new truth. There was only one god worth worshipping, the sun itself, the Aten. This was no mere religious shift. It was an earthquake that shattered the very foundation of Egyptian civilization. Imagine a society built around temples, priests and rituals being told overnight that their gods were false, their worship obsolete. Akhenaten did not simply preach monotheism, he enforced it with an iron fist. The temples of Amun were shut down, his name, chiseled off monuments, statues smashed, and entire cities abandoned. In their place, Akhenaten built a new world, a city dedicated solely to Aten, where the sun would rise directly between the cliffs and bathe the land in sacred light. And through it all, Nefertiti stood at his side, not as a silent consort, but as a full participant in this religious revolution. The reliefs of the period depict her worshipping Aten with the same reverence as Akhenaten. Their daughters often shone with them, heads tilted toward the radiant sun. It was a family portrait, unlike anything ever seen in Egyptian art, a testament to the power and influence of this remarkable queen. Even the style of the art itself changed under Nefertiti's influence. Gone were the stiff, formal poses of the past, replaced by loose, exaggerated, and sometimes intimate scenes. The king and queen were shown kissing, playing with their children, praying in soft robes beneath the sun's rays. Nefertiti's presence was everywhere in this new world, at times even overshadowing her husband. Some historians believe she held real political power, perhaps even ruling as co-regent under the name Neferneferuaten. But revolutions are fragile things, and the gods do not take kindly to being replaced. The people watched and waited quietly, hoping for a return to the old order. By the height of her influence, Nefertiti had become more than a queen. She was an icon of divine femininity and royal power, a living goddess reshaping the spiritual and cultural fabric of Egypt alongside her husband. She bore Akhenaten 6 daughters, Meritaten Meketaten, Ankhesenpaten, and others, all frequently depicted in family scenes beneath the rays of Atens. Curiously, no sons were ever confirmed, adding to the mystery surrounding this enigmatic queen. Nefertiti's legacy is one that continues to captivate and inspire, a testament to the power of a woman who dared to challenge the status quo and leave an indelible mark on history. Her beauty, immortalized in the iconic bust that bears her name, is matched only by the strength and resilience of her spirit. In a world where women were often relegated to the shadows, Nefertiti stepped into the light, a beacon of hope and possibility. She showed us that power knows no gender, that a woman's voice can shake the very foundations of society. And though her end remains a mystery, her impact echoes through the ages, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, one person can change the course of history. So let us remember Nefertiti not just as a queen, but as a revolutionary, a trailblazer, and an icon of feminine power. Let her story inspire us to stand tall, to speak our truth, and to never be afraid to challenge the status quo. For in the end, it is not just about leaving a mark on history, but about creating a legacy that will endure long after we are gone. In a kingdom obsessed with lineage, this was both a political problem and a historical mystery. Was it fate, or was something else at play? Some suggest Akhenaten may have had sons with other wives, or even more controversially with Nefertiti herself, fueling modern speculation and uncomfortable theories that range from the speculative to the salacious. What is certain is that motherhood was central to her image. In art, Nefertiti is portrayed cradling her children, their tiny arms reaching up to touch her cheeks. These are not stiff, cold statues. These are living moments carved in stone, intimate, emotional, radiant. In an age where pharaohs were often distant gods, Nefertiti's portrayal as a nurturing mother softened the divine, making it human. Yet there was another side to her iconography, one far more powerful. In multiple depictions, Nefertiti wears the blue crown, usually reserved for male rulers. She is shown smiting enemies riding chariots, making offerings without Akhenaten beside her. These were not symbolic gestures. This was a queen performing the sacred duties of a king. It suggests a quiet but radical truth. Nefertiti may have been preparing for something more than partnership. She may have been preparing to rule. Whispers in history suggest that after Akhenaten's health began to decline, possibly due to genetic disorders or stress, Nefertiti took on more governing responsibility. But this is where the record starts to fade. In the final years of Akhenaten's reign, she vanishes from the public eye. No fanfare, no funeral inscriptions, no confirmed burial. Did she die young? Did she fall from power? Or was she about to become something even greater than a queen? Something history tried and failed to erase. One day, Nefertiti was everywhere, etched into walls, praised in hymns, ruling alongside a revolutionary pharaoh. And then, like a breath in the desert wind, she vanished. No ancient Egyptian queen had ever been so visible. Yet around year 12 of Akhenaten's 17-year reign, the records grow eerily silent. Her name disappears from the inscriptions. Her image fades from the art. No tomb, no death announcement, no mourning scene. For a woman so central to Egypt's cultural upheaval, her absence is more than strange. It is a black hole in history. So what happened to her? One theory suggests the simplest answer. She died. Childbirth was risky, even for royalty. Nefertiti's second daughter, Menkaten, also disappears from records around this time, possibly indicating a dual tragedy. A mother and daughter lost in the same dark moment? But if that were true, why no elaborate funeral, no tribute, no temple? This was a woman revered like a goddess. A quiet death does not fit the script. Others proposed something far more political. Perhaps Nefertiti fell from favor. Maybe the tides turned within the royal court. Akhenaten, increasingly isolated, could have sidelined her, possibly in favor of another consort. Some suggest a co-ruler named Smenkhkare, an enigmatic figure who appears briefly in the historical record, may have replaced her. Was this a male heir, a half-brother? Or was Smenkhkare Nefertiti herself under a new name? That is the most electrifying theory, that Nefertiti did not disappear at all. She transformed. Evidence suggests someone named Nefer-Nefer-Wa-Ten ruled in the final years of Akhenaten's reign. This individual used feminine grammar in inscriptions and even referenced Akhenaten as her beloved husband. Could this have been Nefertiti, crowned as pharaoh in her own right? If so, she would have joined the rarest ranks in Egyptian history, a female king like Hatshepsut before her. But even this theory dissolves in sand. Nefer-Nefer-Waten's reign ends abruptly, and then comes a name more familiar, Tutankhaten later, Tutankhamun, a child king who would reverse his parents' reforms and restore the old gods. If Nefertiti did reign alone, it was short. And if she was Smenkhkare or Nefer-Nefer-Waten, she ruled as a ghost queen, visible only in hints, half-carved cartouches, and broken relics. A puzzle missing its centerpiece. And so, just as suddenly as she arrived, the most powerful woman in Egypt disappears. But her legend, that was just beginning to take shape. As the dust of Amarna began to settle, a new figure emerged. A boy king barely old enough to hold a scepter. His name was Tutankhaten, later changed to Tutankhamun, and he would become the most famous pharaoh in the world, not for what he did in life, but for the treasures found in his untouched tomb. But what matters here is this: who was his mother? The historical records are frustratingly silent. Are you ready to unravel one of history's greatest mysteries? The identity of Tutankhamun's mother has perplexed Egyptologists for over a century. Some argue Nefertiti was his stepmother. Others speculate she may have been his biological mother, a theory supported by art and timing that places him as a young child during her final public appearances. If Nefertiti truly bore Tutankhamun, it would explain his steady early reign, guided by an experienced hand. His decisions to reverse his father's religious revolution may not have been entirely his own. The intrigue deepens. Who was steering the ship during the boy king's fragile reign? A mere child of 9 could not restore a religious empire alone. Someone was behind the scenes, versed in court politics, religion, and public symbolism. Could it have been Nefertiti ruling from the shadows, or the high priest Ai, her possible father? Perhaps both working together to erase the chaos of Akhenaten and return Egypt to its old gods. A golden shrine found in Tutankhamun's tomb provides compelling evidence. It depicts a woman, her features eerily similar to Nefertiti, anointing the young king. If it was her, she may not have vanished at all, but stayed at the heart of power in a more discreet form. Still without a named tomb or confirmed mummy, we are left with only fragments. If she did guide Tutankhamun, her fingerprints are everywhere, but her name is gone, scrubbed from temples, omitted from king lists, as if someone tried to erase the memory of a woman who once ruled like a god. The irony is rich. Tutankhamun's fame would resurrect her image because in searching for his story, the world stumbled upon hers. For someone at the center of Egypt's most radical era, queen priestess possible pharaoh, Nefertiti left behind no confirmed tomb. No monument bears her death rites. No sarcophagus, funerary mask, or inscription whispering her final words to the gods. It is as if she evaporated. This absence has haunted Egyptologists. In a culture obsessed with the afterlife where every noble was embalmed, mummified, and buried with instructions for the soul's journey, how could one of the most powerful women in Egyptian history be lost? Theories abound. Perhaps she was buried hastily and without ceremony in the waning years of the Amarna period, her radical legacy making her dangerous in the eyes of the new regime. Her tomb may have been dismantled, her name defaced part of the sweeping effort to erase the memory of Akhenaten's heresy. After all, the return to traditional gods was swift, and vengeance in stone-cut hieroglyphs was common. Another tantalizing theory suggests her tomb was never truly lost, simply misidentified or still hidden. Some researchers propose she lies within the Valley of the Kings itself, concealed behind the walls of Tutankhamun's tomb. In 2015, radar scans of KV-62 indicated possible hidden chambers. Was Nefertiti buried just inches away, sealed off, and forgotten beneath layers of history and gold? The idea captured the world's imagination. a queen sleeping just beyond reach. Egyptologists held their breath, but further scans yielded inconclusive results. Excavations slowed, funding dried up, and once again Nefertiti retreated into myth. Yet her absence is loud. We have her images, dozens, perhaps hundreds, her likeness captured in stone and pigment. Her bust, now in Berlin, still gazes with unfathomable grace across museum glass, as if she knows something we do not, as if she is waiting. Every year, new digs continue in Amarna and the valley. Every year, whispers stir. Could a sealed chamber finally give up her secrets? Could a cartouche in forgotten sand spell her true name? Or is she destined to remain the eternal riddle, an unfinished sentence in the story of Egypt? If history buried her, it did not succeed for long, because the search for Nefertiti never truly stopped. It only deepened. If her tomb was never found and her body never identified, why do we still remember Nefertiti? The answer sits behind museum glass, beneath soft lights in Berlin's Neues Museum, a painted limestone sculpture that has captivated the world since its rediscovery in 1912. The bust of Nefertiti. She gazes forward with poise and serenity, her long neck graceful, her blue crown distinct, and her features so refined they almost feel modern. One eye is unfinished, perhaps left that way intentionally, or a forgotten detail during the workshop's final days. Nefertiti's legacy endures not in the shadow of tombs, but in the light of human fascination. She is the queen who will not be forgotten, the face that launched 1,000 questions. And as long as those questions persist, as long as her story captivates us, Nefertiti will never truly be lost. She will remain, as she always has, just beyond our grasp, a timeless symbol of power, mystery, and the endless allure of the unknown. In the heart of ancient Egypt, a woman rose to power, her face etched into eternity by the skilled hands of an artisan. Nefertiti, the queen whose beauty and influence have echoed through the ages, continues to captivate us with her enduring mystery. Discovered in the ruins of the sculptor Thutmose's studio at Amarna, her limestone bust, though incomplete, is a masterpiece that defies time. When German archaeologist Ludwig Borchardt first laid eyes upon her, he knew he had found something extraordinary. "No use describing it," he wrote in his diary. "You have to see it." And once the world did, Nefertiti became more than a historical figure. She became a global icon of beauty, power, and ancient intrigue. Yet her bust is not without controversy. Acquired by Germany during a time of lax antiquities laws, Egypt has long sought its return, believing that she belongs in the land where she once reigned. Germany, however, has refused, citing the bust's fragility and the prestige she brings as their own Mona Lisa. Regardless of where she resides, Nefertiti's presence has reshaped our perception of ancient women. Her bust captures a regal, assertive, and almost challenging essence, suggesting a woman who held secrets, made decisions, and influenced the course of empires. And indeed she did. Through this sculpture, delicate and silent Nefertiti has achieved immortality not in gold, but in the memories of those who behold her. Nefertiti's story is one of paradox, a woman extensively documented, yet largely unknowable. Over the centuries, she has been imagined as a goddess in human form, a political mastermind, a tragic figure lost in the sands of revolution, and an ambitious queen navigating a collapsing empire with grace and calculation. What we do know is that she was more than a royal consort. Her imagery rivals that of kings, and her presence in religious rites, royal ceremonies, and even scenes of battle reveals a woman wielding power in her own right. In a patriarchal world, she carved out her own space through presence poise and a masterful command of the visual and spiritual language of her time. Central to one of history's most daring religious shifts, Nefertiti embodied the monotheistic sun cult envisioned by Akhenaten. She was the human face of a divine ideal, bridging the gap between the Aten above and the people below. Yet, after her disappearance, her memory was nearly erased. Her statues smashed, inscriptions defaced, and her role intentionally buried in the backlash against Akhenaten's regime. Still, 3,000 years later, her name endures. Myth has a way of surviving, where facts cannot, and when a woman becomes both icon and enigma, she transcends the reach of time. Perhaps this is precisely what Nefertiti intended to be remembered, not explained, to be admired, not contained, to live forever as a queen of endless speculation. More than 3 millennia after her reign, Nefertiti's shadow still stretches across our world, immortalized in museum displays, academic discussions, novels, and documentaries. Unlike most historical figures, she has not faded into the past. Instead, she grows larger with time. It is not just her beauty that captivates us, but the mystery surrounding her. The deliberate blank spaces in her biography beckon us to unravel her secrets, even as we know we may never truly succeed. In this way, she has become more than historical. She has become archetypal. Each generation reinterprets Nefertiti in its own image, from the exotic and submissive queen of the early 20th century to the feminist icon and power behind the throne of more recent years. She is a mirror reflecting our evolving understanding of women power and the ancient world. Nefertiti's legacy is one of enduring fascination, a testament to the power of an incomplete story to ignite the imagination. She reminds us that sometimes the most compelling figures are those who leave us with more questions than answers, who challenge us to look beyond the surface and contemplate the complexities of the human experience. In the end, Nefertiti's true power lies not in what we know about her, but in what we do not. She is a blank canvas upon which we paint our own desires, fears, and aspirations. A timeless muse who inspires us to explore the mysteries of the past and the untold stories that shape our world. As long as her bust continues to gaze out at us, equal parts allure and enigma, Nefertiti will remain an icon, a symbol of the enduring power of beauty, mystery, and the unbreakable human spirit. In the swirling mists of history, a queen emerges, her legacy as timeless as the sands of her kingdom. Nefertiti, the beautiful one, a symbol of power and mystery that has captivated the world for centuries. Through the ages, her story has been retold, reimagined, and reborn, each time taking on new life and meaning. In the feminist wave, she became an icon of female strength, a ruler lost to the erasure of patriarchy, only to rise again as a beacon of hope and inspiration. In modern media, she is a style icon, an African queen, a political player, even a possible pharaoh, her influence reaching across time and culture. But perhaps her greatest legacy lies not in the facts of her life, but in the enduring power of imagination. In ancient Egypt, immortality was not just about mummification, but about memory. If your name was spoken, your image, seen, your story retold, you lived on dining with the gods and traveling the fields of reeds. And Nefertiti, whether by design or by chance, has achieved that eternal life. Her name echoes across continents, her face is one of the most recognized in human history, and her story, though fractured, still commands attention. In a way, her final act of power was not just to rule an empire, raise royal daughters, or shape religion, but to become truly timeless. She left behind a perfect mystery, a life half seen, half erased, and wholly unforgettable, sparking an enduring curiosity that keeps her spirit alive. Nefertiti remains here in our questions, our wonder, and our need to remember. The women history tried to forget. She lives on not in gold or glory, but in the eternal act of being searched for, and what could be more immortal than that? In the misty mountains of China, where the wind whispers through bamboo groves, a dragon lies coiled its scales, shimmering with water rice and ancient pride. But this is no mythical beast of legend, no fire-breathing creature of fantasy. This dragon is made of earth and stone, carved by centuries of calloused hands and patient vision, a testament to the enduring spirit of the Hani and Yao people who call these hills home. Known as the Dragon's Backbone, the Longji rice terraces ripple across the mountainside like a living, breathing creature, each curve and swell carefully sculpted to harness the power of the land. From a distance, the terraces resemble a sleeping dragon, its rhythmic precision rising and falling like the sinews of a great beast. But step closer and you will find something even more alive. Water flows in soft whispers along carefully dug channels. Seedlings flutter in the breeze. And at dawn, the morning mist drapes the landscape like breath rising from the dragon's nostrils. This harmony between humans and nature was not born in haste, but through generations of perseverance. With little more than stone tools and bamboo baskets, the Hani and Yao people carved the hills inch by inch, year by year, turning rainfall into resource and slope into sustenance. They worked with the earth, shaping it in curves and swells, listening to the wind, and following the water until the terraces began to resemble a dragon in repose, strong, eternal, and sacred. Today, the dragon's backbone still feeds entire villages. But more than that, it stands as a testament to the power of patience and the enduring fingerprints of human resilience. In a world racing forward, here lies a dragon that was never chased, only carved layer by layer, dream by dream. A reminder that with persistence, even the steepest mountains can be tamed, and the most unforgiving landscapes can become a source of life and wonder. What is the one thing holding you back today? Is it fear, doubt, or the weight of tradition? In the Longji Mountains, a different force flows, the power of water and the strength of generations working as one. Here, one miscalculation could cause an entire section to collapse. Too steep and the water would rush. Too flat and it would stagnate. So they measured not with rulers, but with generations of intuition. Children learned from their elders. Elders watched the seasons, and the mountain in time gave in not with surrender, but with trust. And the result, a landscape that defies nature by flowing with it. From the valley base to the cloud-kissed peaks, these terraces rise like a spiral staircase to the sky. They mirror the topography with elegance, almost as if the mountain grew them itself. But no, the mountain did not shape these curves. Humans did. With no engines, no concrete, no architectural degrees, just time, just trial and error. Just the belief that land, no matter how steep, can be made to serve life. Today, the terraces remain functional, still farmed, still repaired, still respected. No bulldozers, no shortcuts. The old ways survive not because they resist the future, but because they proved something rare. That tradition, when rooted deep enough, can outlast every storm. If the dragon's backbone is muscle and bone, then water is its blood. It flows quietly without pumps or engines tracing ancient channels that slip from mountaintop springs into every terrace below. This hydraulic choreography is no accident. It is the secret life of the terraces, the reason they have endured for centuries. At the top of the mountain, rainwater and natural springs are caught in narrow ditches and earthen canals. From there, gravity becomes the farmer's silent ally. The water descends through terrace after terrace, pooling gently in each field before spilling into the next. This design, fluid seamless, ensures that every patch of rice receives what it needs. No more, no less. There are no valves, no switches. Control lies in subtle gates made of stone or wood, adjusted by hand and habit. If one terrace overflows, it could flood the next. If one leaks, a drought may follow. And so the villagers, guardians of this delicate system, walk the ridges daily, checking, adjusting, listening to the sound of flow. It is less like farming, more like playing an instrument. One wrong note and the whole song is off. But the water does more than feed rice. It mirrors the sky. In spring, when the terraces are first flooded, the paddies turn to glass. They reflect the clouds, the sun, even the stars on a clear night. Visitors often describe the sight as surreal, like the mountain has become a living mirror, reflecting both heaven and earth. Then comes summer. The water thickens with stalks of green. The reflection fades, replaced by movement, rippling rice plants swaying in the wind like an emerald sea. In autumn, the water glistens through the gold of ripened grain. And in winter, when farming ceases, snow and frost replace the flowing current. The dragon sleeps, but the channels remain quiet veins awaiting spring. Time moves differently here. not by hours, but by moisture, by the first trickle of mountain thaw, by the sound of frogs returning, by the scent of wet soil. In a world that measures time in seconds, the people of Longji still measure it in seasons and drops. And so the dragon lives not in fire and flight, but in ripples of water pulsing gently through a living masterpiece of stone and soil. Spring in the Longji Mountains begins not with blossoms, but with water. As the snow melts in the higher peaks, streams trickle downward, breathing life into the waiting terraces. The mirror-like patties are ready. The dragon stirs, and the people prepare for the ritual that ties them to every generation before them, planting the first seed. There is no grand announcement, only quiet movement. Farmers, young and old, rise with the mist. They walk barefoot along the narrow ridges, straw hats low over their eyes, baskets balanced on their backs. The air is thick with the scent of soaked soil and mountain wind. The patties flooded just days earlier now shimmer like polished jade. This is not a task for machines. It never has been. Each rice seedling grown in nursery beds is transplanted by hand, one by one, line by line. The workers step into the cold water and press the tender stalks into the mud with gentle fingers. It is a rhythm that feels almost sacred. Back-bent arm-out hand press, repeat all day, sometimes for weeks. Children follow, splashing in the shallows, mimicking their elders. They learn not from textbooks, but by standing in the water, feeling the resistance of mud, learning the spacing by eye. It is how knowledge survives here, lived, not spoken. Planting is more than labor. It is ceremony. Are you ready to rise with the same devotion, to let the old ways guide you through every challenge? In the Longji Mountains, tradition is not a burden, but a compass forever pointing the way to a life in harmony with the land and the rhythm of the seasons. So let the dragon awaken within you and flow with the current of ancient wisdom, for it is there that true resilience is born. In the ethereal realm of the Longji rice terraces, an ancient dance unfolds between man and mountain spirit and soil. As the planting season dawns, offerings are made to the sacred spirits that guard these hallowed hills. Elders scatter the first seedlings like prayers, their weathered hands blessing the earth with each gentle touch. No one dares to rush the dragon or race the mountain here. Instead, the rhythm of planting becomes a meditation, a slow waltz of patience and purpose, each step a promise to the ancestors and the generations yet to come. As the days pass, green shoots begin to whisper from the watery fields, a testament to the enduring cycle of life. Each seed is a defiant hope against hunger and haste, each row a quiet rebellion against the rush of the modern world. And so the future is planted one seed at a time, as the dragon stirs and the mountain breathes. Nestled along the ridges and crooks of the terraces villages like Pingandajai and Jingkeng cling to the mountain like living museums of heritage. Their timber houses perched on stilts mirror the sloping rooftops of the terraces below, floating like wooden lanterns on an emerald sea. Within these walls, life is a tapestry of simplicity and warmth, where generations share hearths and stories, and the scent of rice wine and bamboo smoke drift on the mountain breeze. The people here, the Zhuang and the Red Yao, carry traditions as old as the hills themselves. Yao women, with their cascading black hair, uncut since childhood, move with a grace that borders on myth. Hand-woven indigo clothes and the creaking of wooden looms whisper of an ancient craft. Music played on reed pipes and bronze drums echoes through the valleys during festivals, a testament to the enduring spirit of these mountain communities. As guests arrive, welcomed with the reflex of hospitality, they are offered tea brewed from local leaves and rice wine in carved gourds. Elders share tales of dragons in the mist of ancestors who first carved the hills and of spirits who still guard the fields. And though the world beyond the terraces may change life, here flows to its own timeless rhythm, absorbing change like water, descending one level at a time. To walk among the terraces is to journey through layers of myth, where the hills are alive with whispered stories and sacred tales. The dragon's spine rises and falls in the coils of the terraces, its breath the swirling mist that blankets the fields. The god's generosity is etched in every curve and step, a reminder of the divine pact between the people and the land. These legends passed down through generations are not mere fantasy, but a truth woven into the very fabric of the landscape. They live in the songs of planting the incense of a new season and the reverent silence of misty mornings. To the children who grow up here, the dragon is as real as the rice that sustains them, a guardian to be honored and respected, lest the balance be broken and the harvest lost. And so, in this enchanted realm where the lines between myth and reality blur, the dance continues. The dragon sleeps, the mountain breathes, and the people plant their hopes and dreams one seed at a time in the eternal rhythm of the Longji rice terraces. What is the one thing holding you back today? Is it fear, doubt, or a lack of belief in your own potential? The dragon's backbone of Longji rice terraces in China has a lesson for us all. For centuries, this ancient wonder was a secret kept by the mountain's remote quiet and known only to those who called it home. But as the modern world arrived with roads wires and tourists, the terraces faced a question they had never had to answer before. How do you survive the modern world? The people of Longji did not just endure, they adapted. They wove the present into the past, one careful thread at a time. Villagers opened their homes to guests, offering authentic experiences rooted in local life. The farming continued each season, bringing the rhythms of flooding, planting, and harvesting. Tourism brought income, but rice brought life. One supported the other. Both were essential. The dragon's backbone absorbed change with grace and balance. It remained not because it was frozen in time, but because it breathed with time flexing, adjusting but never breaking. In an age where tradition is often sacrificed for progress, Longji stands as quiet proof that progress can walk gently if it chooses. That the old ways still have room in the modern world, especially when they are this beautiful. Through the seasons, the terraces transform, shedding their skin and shifting their mood. Spring reflects summer, grows autumn feeds, and winter rests. The beauty of Longji is not just in its shape, but in its cycle, in how it accepts time without resistance. Are you ready to rise to embrace change with the grace and resilience of the dragon's backbone? To weave your own story, season by season, step by step. The terraces remind us that we too can survive and thrive in the face of uncertainty. That our traditions, our values, and our dreams have a place in the modern world. That we can adapt without losing ourselves. So let us make our offerings whisper our prayers and step forward with the quiet certainty that we are part of something greater. A story still being told, written not in ink, but in the stone water and rice of our own lives. The dragon's backbone is waiting. Are you ready to climb in the misty hills of China's Guangxi province? There is a place where the earth itself seems to breathe. The dragon's backbone. Rice terraces carved into the mountainside like the scales of an ancient beast are a testament to the enduring bond between humans and the land. The terraces transform quietly, never needing to announce themselves. Photographers chase the light here, hoping to capture something eternal. But the terraces do not freeze for anyone. They move. They breathe. They teach us softly that beauty is not static. It is a rhythm, a practice, a promise renewed with every season. And so the dragon turns again, not with a roar or flame, but with water, grain, and wind. In the end, the terraces are more than fields. They are a vow, quiet, curved, and carved into the mountainside. A promise passed down from hand to hand, season to season, generation to generation. The dragon's backbone is not just a wonder of agriculture or a masterpiece of engineering. It is the story of what happens when humans choose to live with the land, not against it. There were easier paths. The ancestors of Long could have moved to valleys, chased flatter ground. But they stayed. They studied the slope, listened to the stone, followed the water. And in doing so, they made the impossible ordinary feeding villages on a mountainside. Every curve holds a lesson, not just about rice, but about patience, about legacy, about care. These terraces were not built in years or even decades. They took centuries. There is no shortcut to harmony, no machine that can replicate the knowledge etched into each stone wall by calloused hands and quiet persistence. And yet nothing about them is frozen. The terraces are alive. They evolve. They bend with the weather, with the needs of the people, with the shape of the world. That is their secret. They were never rigid. They were always fluid. Even now, as the modern world climbs the hills with its signals and screens, the terraces remain grounded. They change, but they do not vanish, because their roots are not just in soil. They are in story, in ritual, in the simple, enduring act of planting a seed and trusting the sky. To walk the dragon's backbone is to witness a contract between humans and the earth. A contract signed with sweat and sun renewed with every harvest. It is a reminder that progress does not always mean speed, and that greatness does not always roar. Sometimes it murmurs like a stream slipping over stone. And perhaps that is why the terraces speak to so many, from farmers to travelers to dreamers, because they represent what we have nearly forgotten. That the most lasting things in this world are not built with force, but with rhythm, humility, and time. The dragon sleeps, the people endure, and the mountain remembers. Most visitors to Giza lift their eyes to the sky, drawn to the towering silhouettes of the pyramids and the gaze of the Great Sphinx. But few ask what lies beneath. Under the sand, under the Nile, under centuries of forgotten currents. For in the quiet shallows near the ancient village of Abu Rash, just a short distance from the Giza Plateau, a strange tale stirs. It speaks of something enormous, eroded, and ignored. An underwater sphinx. Local fishermen have whispered of it for generations. A smooth-backed shape that seems too symmetrical to be natural. A feline form half buried in mud and waterlogged sediment. When the Nile's waters recede during droughts, parts of it emerge. Stone curves, grooves, and what some say is a carved pour, impossibly worn, but unmistakably shaped by hands. It does not sit among the tourist routes. There are no guideposts, no velvet ropes, no tour buses idling nearby. Just an area thick with reeds, brackish water, and silence. Explorers who ventured there claim the land itself feels different, charged as if memory clings to it. Beneath the murk, sonar scans have picked up geometric patterns and what appear to be blocks placed with intent. But what truly startles are the claims that this figure, a sphinx-like formation submerged near Giza, may predate the pyramids entirely, not by decades, but by millennia. If true, it would shatter the established chronology of Egyptian civilization. The mainstream timeline anchors the Great Sphinx at around 2500 BCE. But this underwater form, if genuinely carved, could belong to an age when the Sahara was still green, and the Nile ran wild through a wetter, lusher land. Skeptics, of course, dismiss it as a misidentified rock formation. Limestone shaped by water and wishful thinking. But the grooves, the curves, the alignment with celestial markers, it all invites more questions than answers. The site remains unexcavated. Official archaeologists have largely ignored it. Perhaps it is nothing, perhaps it is everything. A relic not just of Egypt's past, but of a world lost to flood and time. For now, the so-called underwater sphinx lies quiet, not sleeping waiting. What secrets lie beneath the silt and flood layers of the Nile? The legend of the underwater sphinx has captivated imaginations and sparked fierce debates since the 1980s, when grainy photographs and strange reports began to surface. These accounts spoke of a massive lion-bodied figure, partially submerged near the Giza Plateau, a weathered monument that challenged the very foundations of Egyptology. Naturally, mainstream academics responded with caution and disdain, arguing that without proper excavation and dating, the claim could not be taken seriously. They insisted the so-called underwater sphinx was likely a natural formation limestone, sculpted by thousands of years of Nile flooding and sediment erosion. But the photos kept circulating, the sonar readings continued to show odd patterns, and the theorists began to build stories around the mystery. They whispered of a forgotten civilization, Perhaps Atlantean or pre-dynastic Egyptian, lost in a flood that scoured the Sahara. They pointed to water erosion patterns on the original Great Sphinx and hinted that what lay beneath the Nile might be far older than accepted memory allows. The debate grew louder, but the ground remained still, the Sphinx caught between myth and mud. If the underwater Sphinx is more than erosion or coincidence, then Egypt's story did not begin in the 4th dynasty. It began before it, deep in prehistory, when the Sahara was a green savanna, and the Nile roamed wider, wilder, and less predictable. This possibility gained traction in the 1990s, when geologist Dr. Robert Schoch argued that the deep vertical weathering on the Great Sphinx's enclosure was caused by heavy, sustained ancient rainfall, which had not touched the Giza Plateau since at least 7,000 BCE. If water shaped the original Sphinx, could water also have hidden an even older sibling? The so-called underwater Sphinx sits in a lower region near ancient floodplains, and some satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar suggest possible foundations, rectangular outlines, and deliberate shaping, all buried beneath silt and seasonal water. These signs hint that the site may come from a time when nothing in Egypt was yet in hieroglyphs, a time of missing chapters and lost civilizations. Could Egypt hold a secret similar to Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, an ancient culture that marked the land with stone long before papyrus carried their stories? If the underwater Sphinx was built in such a time, it would change everything we know about human history. Are we ready to listen to the secrets it might tell? What if there was a forgotten age that whispered to the builders of Giza, leaving behind more than myth? Perhaps a monument drowned then forgotten stone doesn't lie. It remembers. And around the site of the so-called underwater Sphinx, it tells a quiet but persistent story, not just of time, but of water. Sediment layers, erosion marks, and flood patterns hint at a history long before the desert became dry, long before the Nile settled into its familiar course, long before the pharaohs carved their names into history. Geologists who have examined photographs and data from the site near Abu Rash note peculiar erosion marks, smooth, rounded grooves that suggest prolonged exposure to flowing water. Not wind, not sand, but rainfall and movement forces absent from this region for thousands of years. Similar arguments have been made about the Great Sphinx itself, especially its enclosure wall. Critics of the standard timeline point out that the deep vertical fissures seen on the Sphinx's surrounding trench do not resemble wind erosion at all. They mimic rainfall, heavy, sustained prehistoric rain. Now, at the possible underwater Sphinx site, we see the same signature, only this time hidden beneath a shallow flood basin. During periods of low Nile flow or excavation, parts of the structure are said to rise into view lion-like hunches shoulders, and a foundation that seems too level to be natural. Researchers who have surveyed the area note that the basin is geologically active with high clay content and evidence of ancient water tables fluctuating violently. The stone there is heavily worn, but not randomly. The wear follows the shape of the structure itself, flowing in lines that suggest deliberate carving, then drowning. Some sediment layers around the site date back to the early Holocene, when Egypt was wetter, greener, and prone to massive flooding. If a monument had been carved, then it could have stood for centuries before being swallowed by mud, forgotten by shifting populations, and buried under the Nile's wandering silt. Skeptics argue this is all coincidence, natural formations teased into myth by hopeful eyes. But water does not form symmetry. It does not carve pores. It does not create aligned foundations or echo the geometry of a known Sphinx just a few miles away. So the question deepens. If water erased this monument from view, what else has it taken with it? And more urgently, how much of history still lies hidden beneath the surface? If the underwater Sphinx is truly there, silent, carved, and ancient, why has it not been excavated? Why does it remain beneath layers of mud and silence, passed over by archaeologists, ignored by governments, and left to the currents? The answer, like the artifact itself, lies beneath the surface. Egypt's archaeological institutions are protective, and rightfully so. The nation guards its ancient heritage with rigid protocols. strict excavation rules, and an insistence on academic consensus. Digging up any site, especially one that challenges the traditional timeline, requires permits funding, international oversight, and most importantly, institutional approval. And that approval often rests on one unspoken rule: do not rewrite Egypt's history without a mountain of undeniable evidence. And that is the problem. The so-called underwater Sphinx has never received an official state-sponsored excavation. Independent researchers, foreign academics, and fringe theorists have studied the area, but without formal backing, their findings remain anecdotal, suggestive, but not conclusive. There is also the issue of the Nile itself. The river is not a static feature. It floods, recedes, and shifts over decades. The site where the monument allegedly rests is flood-prone, often submerged for much of the year. Excavation would require draining the area, rerouting water, protecting nearby ecosystems, and managing structural damage caused by centuries of sediment pressure. That alone would take years, if not decades. Then there are political factors. A discovery of this magnitude, if validated, would disrupt more than academic timelines. It could challenge established narratives, upset national pride, and attract a media frenzy Egypt might not be eager to welcome. The Ministry of Antiquities prefers to promote discoveries that reinforce Egypt's grandeur, not question its foundational history. Some whisper that certain institutions may already know more than they reveal, that preliminary studies have been done quietly behind closed doors. But without public records, peer-reviewed findings, or government announcements, these claims drift into conspiracy. In the land of ancient mysteries where the sands of time whisper secrets, a strange irony unfolds. Beneath the mud and skepticism, a monument sleeps unclaimed, unstudied, and untouched by time's official record. But in a place obsessed with preserving its ancient past, one of its greatest enigmas may be hidden in plain sight, waiting to be unveiled. The Sphinx, more than a mere sculpture to the ancient Egyptians, embodied a cosmic sentinel placed at thresholds where the divine met the mortal. With the body of a lion and the head of a man, it represented strength fused with wisdom, physical power, tamed by royal mind. The Great Sphinx of Giza, towering 66 feet high, has guarded the plateau for over 4,000 years, facing the rising sun and watching over the tombs of pharaohs. Its exact origin remains a topic of debate, with some attributing it to Khafra, while others argue for a far older provenance. But what if a second Sphinx, hidden water-worn and possibly older, exists just miles away? The implications would be groundbreaking. No known records speak of twin sphinxes at Giza, and ancient texts remain silent. However, later, Greco-Roman traditions mention guardians positioned in balance flanking sacred spaces. In Egyptian architecture, symmetry is sacred, with temples often featuring twin statues, obelisks, and avenues of lions. Could twin sphinxes be a possibility? Some researchers propose that the so-called underwater sphinx might not be a copy, but the original, a prototype, a pre-dynastic version later replicated on a grander scale. If true, it suggests that the idea of the Sphinx originated not from dynastic builders, but from a forgotten culture whose myths were carried forward, adopted, and refined. If the monument predates writing, its purpose could have been astronomical, ritualistic, or even commemorative, marking an event, a flood, or a forgotten god. The lion shape itself holds significance, as lions represented the horizon, the gate of dawn and dusk in ancient Egypt. A sphinx facing east watches the rebirth of the sun eternally, and carving one was an act of freezing that sacred moment in stone. Imagine a sphinx carved before the pyramids, aligned, guarding, and waiting. It would not only rewrite history, but redefine the mythos of Egypt itself, not as the beginning of civilization, but as the last echo of something even older. As whispers of the underwater sphinx resonate across the world, a quiet divide has emerged. On one side stands traditional Egyptology, cautious, structured, and rooted in academic consensus. On the other, a growing community of independent researchers, alternative historians, and curious minds who believe something extraordinary is being overlooked. Mainstream scholars insist on evidence peer-reviewed studies, stratigraphy inscriptions, and radiocarbon dates concerned about misidentifying natural rock formations and spreading misinformation. However, to others, caution has become complacency. Independent investigators, many of them trained scientists or engineers from outside the field, argue for deeper study of the underwater Sphinx and similar anomalies. They cite high-resolution satellite images showing unnatural symmetry, LiDAR scans detecting rectangular foundations beneath layers of mud and erosion patterns that seem shaped by design. They also question the political motivations behind the silence, suggesting that a new Sphinx, especially one that threatens the accepted timeline, could disrupt Egypt's narrative and authority. The underwater Sphinx has become a symbol of hidden history, featured in books, documentaries, podcasts, and conferences. Supporters call for open excavation, while detractors warn against pseudoscience. The truth remains buried beneath voices as thick as the Nile's silt lost in the middle of the divide. This divide speaks to how we approach the past. Do we trust only what has been confirmed, or do we follow the hints left just beyond reach? The underwater Sphinx, whether by accident or design, invites us to question, to explore, and to unravel the mysteries that lie beneath the surface of our accepted narratives. As the ancient Egyptians believed nothing stays buried forever, the Sphinx as a guardian of lost worlds may be waiting to reveal its secrets, challenging us to redefine our understanding of history and the very foundations of civilization itself. In the depths beneath the Nile, a mystery lies hidden, waiting to be unraveled. The underwater Sphinx of Giza, whether natural rock formation or forgotten monument, has become a catalyst for curiosity, stirring the imagination and challenging our understanding of the past. Its presence, whether confirmed or dismissed, speaks to something ancient within us, a yearning to discover and remember what has been lost to time. For every empire that has risen and fallen, for every civilization that has vanished beneath the sands, there are secrets still waiting to be uncovered, stories waiting to be told. And yet the underwater Sphinx remains shrouded in silence, its face staring up from the mud with an ancient gaze that seems to hold the weight of untold millennia. Perhaps it belongs to a chapter of human history we have yet to fully comprehend, a time when the stars were understood differently, when the earth was honored more intimately, and when mythologies now lost to time held sway. Or perhaps it is simply a natural formation, a coincidence of erosion and time. But regardless of its origins, the Sphinx's power lies in its ability to make us wonder, to force us to confront the limits of what we know and the discomfort of what we may have overlooked. In an era defined by instant answers and global data, the underwater Sphinx remains a rare thing, an unanswered question, a possibility that cannot be solved by drones or algorithms. It reminds us that discovery is not over, that the Earth still holds secrets not written in textbooks, and that the past is a living puzzle scattered across landscapes and shorelines, waiting for a shift in tide or a change in thinking to unsettle the dust. And so, whether monument or mirage, the underwater Sphinx serves its greatest purpose. It stirs the imagination and reminds us that the most ancient things are not just buried in sand or time, but within us, in our need to explore, to remember, and to believe that somewhere out there beneath the waves or the desert, the past still breathes and waits to be found.